What's up YouTube, Photoshoot here, and I'm back with another deck profile. This month we actually got my first build, or the first build on this channel, which is actually not from me, which is Infernities. Infernity is kind of one of the most controversial decks in Yu-Gi-Oh! You either hate them or you love the deck. There is no in between. I decided to build this deck for 2011 thanks to Necro, because he got it first and showed me some crazy OCG or crazy Japanese combos. But while testing and also something, the deck was so inconsistent, which is, especially in September 2011, a huge problem for Infernities. So I moved a little bit on with the build and got to know Slash or Hydro Pump, where he's probably more known for this name, on the Format Library server. He is the originator of the Dragon Turbo deck, which topped at Edison and got more popular in Edison format. So he showed a lot of creativity in the past. And he also played a lot of Infernities in the last couple of years. So he knows a lot about the deck. And when I talked with him, I tried out his build and noticed something immediately. This build was way more consistent than other Infernity builds, but a bit more grindy. Because if you go off with Infernities, you actually don't need to loop anything with your Trishula or your Brainek or do those crazy combos. You still can set up a crazy board with 3 barriers. And his build is specifically designed to counter one of the most problematic cards for Infernities, which is Max C in this format. So which this build is trying to achieve is, even if you get Max C, you can just go for Necromancer Archfiend and set 1 barrier, which is still a fine board, especially in a slow format like September 2011. I tried out a lot of stuff and came to conclusion to just net deck this build. But besides that, there were a couple of cards which are still changed, which are not that different from the original cards which were in the build. So, enough talking. Without further ado, let's get to the deck profile. And by the way, the original deck profile of the Infernity September 2011 Infernity build is already on Slash Gaming's channel. He goes a little bit in depth about the side deck and also the combos. So I'm not going to do that. So if you want to have a bit more of an analysis with this build, please go to his channel. We'll link the video in the description. But I still want to have this deck on this channel since I own this deck and I want to profile every deck I own on this channel, obviously. So let's get to the deck profile. So now let's start with the monsters. Of course, we got the main ones with 3 Infernity Archfiends. I don't think this card needs any explaining. It's the main searcher. This gets all your crazy stuff like launcher, like your crazy traps. So, and it's just one of the most frustrating cards in the top deck wall for your opponent. So there are a lot of situations where your opponent just thinks he has got the board broken, then you just top deck your Archfiend and you go off again. So yeah, it's very frustrating card for your opponent sometimes to play against. Then we got 3 Necromancer, which is self-explaining as well. It's it's your main special summon guy besides your launcher and your other combo stuff. Then we got the 1 Avenger. Some people think you need to play 2 because if you get DD Crow, it's really, really bad. But the thing is, you need to play another card which is very bad to draw, just to get around DD Crow. And what I noticed in this format is that DD Crow is very underwhelming as well. Anyway, people think it's great against plants, but especially after game 2, DD Crow is kinda it's okay, but it's not a blowout card, which side deck cards should be. With the inclusion of Dark Work, this card still gets a bit more use, but just for this one, I don't think it's necessary to make the deck worse. Then we got 2 copies of Mirage. This is just your second and your third Infernity launcher basically. The main difference is that you obviously need your normal sum for this, you don't have a discard outlet, and you specifically need to special sum 2 Infernity monsters. So sometimes if you have launcher, you have the opportunity to still special sum 1 Infernity monster, which is sometimes relevant, especially if you just want to get an Archfiend search when you get nothing. So that's the main difference, and you just play 2 because drawing double Mirage feels so bad. It actually feels quite terrible. I mean, you can still discard it with Inferno or with the Dark Grapher, but drawing double Mirage makes your hand so much worse. It's not even funny. Then you play 1 Stygian Street Patrol. This actually makes Mirage a bit better, or just it's just great to special summon the Archfiend to get an extra search. So it's still a card you just get in your Armageddon Knight and Grapha, and you don't want to draw multiples as well. It's not like this crazy card extender like in 2014 had Infernities, where you just go off with your Soul Charge plays and you do those crazy Lava Chain Direwolf combos. But it's still a great card, even in September 2011, especially when you consider you play Zenmeister, so you can go into level 4, exceed faster, and get your combos with your detach. So Patrol is still a good card, but you can just play it as one off. And then you play Grapha and Armageddon Knight, so 2 warriors which you can actually search Rhoda. I originally played double Grapha in this build, but I noticed that drawing the second Grapha in the late game is actually quite terrible. And in most of those cases, I just wanted to have the Armageddon Knight instead. So drawing this later on is still kind of meh sometimes, but it's infinitely better than drawing double Grapha. So we get variety here. So those are the monsters. You of course search Armageddon Grapha with your Rhoda. Then for the spells, you of course play the 1 launcher. This card is limited, so you can only play 1. Then you play of course the best -1s in the game, Foolish and Book of Moon. And of course the Rhoda to search out Dark Grapha and Armageddon Knight. I can't count how often I drew this after Grapha, or opened this with Grapha and Armageddon Knight. So shoutouts to Gritzkula, who sort of played against me in those games. So yeah, it's still a card you should play just to search out more discard outlet and get your grave set up. And then of course Monster Rebound. This card is self-explanatory. Then, which is kind of interesting with this build, is you go a bit more into a consistency route. So normally you would say, oh my god, this deck special summons a lot, why should you play 3 Pot of Duality? That's quite easy. Pot of Duality is great. You need to set up on your first turn anyway, and you don't get to special summon a lot. And even if you draw multiple dualities, this card still can be in discard outlet for Infernity Inferno. So this is why it's fine to play 3, and it makes the deck way more consistent, especially the upstarts as well. So you sometimes have some kind of problem with your brick hands, and those cards are here to solve that. And for the traps, 3 Infernity Barrier. If this card is at 3, you should play 3. Then 1 Break, which is a great card against Plant Synchro decks. You could even consider main decking a second one, but the space is very tight in this deck, so I'm not sure about this. I mean, it's a searchable removal, so playing this as a 1-off is fine with your 3 barriers. Then, of course, we play, because we want to draw this in our starting hand to immediately set up our grave, our 3 Infernity Inferno. So this is basically a double Foolish for Infernities. So what we want to do with this, we of course want to draw this first turn and just hope we draw Necromancer, Archfiend or Avenger. Just drop the Archfiend and then drop one of those Infernity monsters, and then just double Foolish the last remaining two, because for combos we of course need Avenger, Necromancer and Archfiend in our graveyard. Then we play two Call of the Haunted, so those are basically the second or third reborn. Especially if you make this build a bit more grindy, then Call is even better card. Then we play two Prison. So this card is kind of interesting. Slash originally played double bottomless in this build, and when we played a couple of the remote woods, my scrap deck against Infernities, we noticed something. Each time I opened with Thunder King Ryo, he almost immediately lost games. Now we can compare in those situations Bottomless Trapper and Dimensional Prison. So if we go first with Thunder King Ryo, let's say we go second with Infernities with Bottomless Trapper, and our opponent opens Ryo. We got Bottomless in hand. That's very bad. So if we go first, Bottomless is a bit better than Dimensional Prison, but we need to see this from the perspective of a worst case scenario, and we're not going to win the dice roll. So even if our opponent opens Thunder King Ryo, that's still kind of not optimal, especially for this deck. That's probably one of the main factors. This deck is not going to be one of the top tier decks, especially because Ryo is so oppressive in this format. So let's say we go second and our opponent opens Ryo and attacks, so we can still flip our Dimensional Prison and deal with the Thunder King Ryo. So this is mainly to deal with Ryo. Then we play, of course, the best traps in this format, Warning and Sullen Judgment, and some deck road protection, Dark Bribe and Starlight Road. This build originally had double Starlight Road. I chose to cut the second Starlight Road for a Dark Bribe because Dark Bribe is still a card you can use to force through combos, so it's not only great for defensive but also for the offensive. So it's better than having Starlight Road, which can be sometimes a bit of a situational card and it's just for back row protection. Which Dark Bribe can do as well, but Dark Bribe can still do other stuff. And then we play one Mirror Force because we won. We hope that our opponent is dumb and just overextends because we don't play Torrential. And for the extra deck, we can't loot this card that much if we play a more consistent build, but Trishula is still in this deck as obviously. Then we play 300 Eyes. This card is of course for our main combos. This basically most of the time just pop itself for the Mirage to copy the Mirage effect. So it's just an extender to get more searches. And of course, on some boards you can just banish Necromancer and special summon the Archfiend from the graveyard. So this is there as an option as well. Then one Infernity Doom Dragon. There are a couple of boards where you want to end with this, since it's an Infernity name. Then one Stardust, mainly for the Starlight Road, but you can also make this the regular way. Scrap Dragon. I really want to play a second one, but the extra deck space is so tight. So I don't know, might be an option. Then one Bryanek, so this we just need this as our level 6 synchros. So we still got combos with Bryanek and Levier, where we bounce our Levier back and to extend more into 100 Eyes and get our Mirage back with our Levier. So this is kind of necessary for the combo. And for level 5s, Cataster and Stygian Sergeants. This card is so great, it's so underrated. It's basically a Blackluster Soldier. So not with the banish effect of course, but it runs over almost everything after it kills one monster, clears out a lot of boards, so it's a great card. Armory Arm, you can make this with Necromancers and Avenger, so it's there as well. And they will play 4 rank 4 exceeds, which is Utopia Roach, which you can protect with this deck quite easy. Zeinmeister, which is kind of an interesting card. This is something Slash came up with as well, or I first saw him playing this. So what's interesting about the rank 4 exceeds is that Zen Meister is actually only one of them which can immediately detach. This is quite important because sometimes if you make rank 4 with your Archfiend and you want to detach your Archfiend, you can immediately detach your Archfiend, flip down your Necromancer for example, which you didn't change or summon this turn. So you can go for rank 4, flip down your Necromancers, flip back up your Necromancer again, especially some of your Archfiend get another search. So that's kind of nice. And of course Levia, which you mainly need for your combos as well. So this was the Infernity deck. Of course, there's also a great side deck strategy with Infernity Randomizer where you go even more into a control build. If you want to know about the side deck, check out /gaming's deck profile. Besides that, that was all the Infernity deck profile. If you want to see more videos, like, share, and subscribe. Become a citizen of the Tango Plant Town by joining our Discord. We got a huge first tournament planned up with $100 in our prize pool already. So we might add more. So I don't if we get depending on the participants. So stay tuned for that. That's going to take place in January probably. We are still planning setting up everything on our Discord. So stay tuned for that.